Looks like I got someone in the chat. Not sure what happened to the chat. There's the chat. What's up, Johnny boy? How you doing, bud? I'm gonna throw a live stream in because I wanted to make a video. I'm gonna start doing live streams periodically throughout the trapping season, and then real heavy outside of trapping season on trapping information and current events, things that are going on, and fur market reports, and you know, final sales in the spring, and all the information on that. And I got a few things that I wanted to touch on today, and I was going to get into it, and I'm going to kind of let the chat build up a little bit and see if we get maybe 5, 6, 10 people in here. How's it going tonight, John? Staying busy? No, it's kind of late. Probably won't see too many folks in, but we got 3 in now. If you're in, sound off. What's your name? Where you from? I'm going to go over the fur market report out of the Trapper Mag that I started reading this morning. And I'm going to go over mink and moil and what's the other tannery that I was talking about? The Sleepy Creek Tannery just updated their prices. I'm going to go over that. And Jeff, how you doing, bud? Yeah, John, I'm doing good, man. Baby's what, 5 days old, 4 days old now, and I'm getting geared up to go to the OFBA convention. I say convention, rendezvous next weekend, and we're just kind of hanging out here at the house, but take care of the kids. I'm not really able to get on and do much until late. I dropped episode 13 tonight, and I accidentally set it up to drop tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and I didn't realize it till about 7 o'clock that it didn't come up at 6 like it was supposed to, and I had to throw it in there a little late, so it came up at about 7:03, 7:04, and the views always take a tank. I figured out 6 o'clock is the best time. I was watching a live stream where Trapper J and Scott 330 Maniac were talking about how he always posts his videos at 6, and the first time I posted a video at 6, it had an extra 100 views in the first 2 hours than most of my videos do. So looks like my service is a little bit shoddy. Hopefully you guys don't lose my stream. Yeah, that's good, Jeff. I'm glad today was almost 80 today here, and it's supposed to get a cool off for a few days, and then we got back in next Wednesday. It's going to be 80s again, and then hopefully that next Friday it's going to drop into 70s and 60s the day after that. And it looks like we're going to do pretty good. We're getting ready to have some 50s and upper 40s in the mornings, so that's going to be nice. I haven't even tried to get out there and deer hunt yet. We got that plot set up down there, and haven't got my crossbow out yet, but I'm going to do it soon. Try and take one out. So I got Jeff, I got John. I don't know who the third person is, but I'm just going to kind of get into it. You guys got any questions, just post them in the chat. You got anything to say, and I'll try and respond to it when I see it. But this is going to be just kind of a news report on the fur market report out of the Trapper Mag, and I'll show you what I got here. Hopefully you guys can see it whenever it pops up, and that should be right now. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. I like making content. Dang, Jeff, 38 degrees Saturday night. That's a good deal. So I got the digital copy of the Trapper Mag, and they've got this new fur market report in it that I'm gonna kind of touch on a little bit. And I really like these digital copies. I'm still getting the paper copy too, but the digital copy is real cool because once you get down to the table of contents area that you see here, you can just click on it, and it takes you right to it. And this is really what I wanted to touch on. There's a couple other parts in this edition, the November edition of Trapper Mag, that's really good. And if you guys don't get it, you probably should check it out. It's pretty cool. But the fur market report that's coming is consistent with the fur market report I was looking over last night. That's out of the most recent Trappers Post, but that one was written probably in August, and this one was probably written within the last 3 weeks. So I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit and kind of show you guys what's going on here. So obviously, beavers are going to be the big thing. They're expecting beavers to stay good throughout, the next year, 2 years. They've got a huge hatter market, and they talk a little bit about it in the hatter market. And the good thing about beavers, they say in here, is that trappers, a lot of trappers in North America have access to beavers, so that should keep it going because the hatter market will be up, and there'll be a whole lot of beaver up for sale. Of course, it talks about how it's best to catch your beaver once they're fully primed, and they're talking about castor in here, not, going for 100 a pound again this year. You're probably not going to see 80s, 90s, and 100s, but you are going to see uppers, 60s, and up for the really good ones that are well taken care of. And they're saying even ones that are poorly handled are going to be below 20 per pound. And I've seen poorly handled castor before. Um, I've seen guys where there was a guy not too long ago, I think it was 2 years ago, for the first sale here in Oklahoma, and a poor guy, he had, I don't know, it seemed like 40 pounds of castor, and it was all green. He didn't dry any of it, but he had two or three huge boxes of castor just stacked full of castor. And once it was all dried, it was going to be great. It was probably at least 10 or 15 pounds of castor when it's dried. But he pulled them out and left the oil sacks on them and didn't remove separate the castor from the oil sacks. And when that happened, he ran it through there, thought he was going to make good money because castor was still worth something then, and he got robbed blind. He was kind of upset, and he ended up just giving it away to whoever bought it because they didn't want to they didn't want to pay any money, and he was upset. But back over here to the Trapper Mag, um, we're going to be looking at a good $30 average on beaver for most of the country because of the hatter market. And we're going to see some of the nicer ones that are put up are going to be worth more than that. And I'm going to be selling. I'm just going to skin mine and sell it by the pound without putting it up. Especially if I have a good number of them. If I only have a handful of beaver, I'm gonna, I'll probably do something different. But I'm expecting to put up, a handful of beaver, maybe the nice ones, and the rest of them I'm just going to sell just how they are. But castor's not going to do too good, as we talked about, and they kind of explained a little bit about that in here. But castor's always going to be good, so a lot of people are holding on to castor. Castor's going to be necessary, and there's going to come a time when castor goes back up to an average of 50 to 75, which is great. I mean, selling castor anything above 50, 60 bucks a pound is really great. A lot of people aren't happy about it because they were getting such high prices before, but the people that buy it are using it and they're getting so much out of it, so it's worth it. And when you're selling castor internationally, which is what was happening for the most part, most of our castor gets sold overseas. That's going to pick back up, and when it does, we're going to have more. Talks a little about otters and how otters are probably going to sit around $30 on average throughout the country, which is good because I can only have a handful of otters here, but that's a good price. And top skins that are put up are going to be around 60. And wild mink, of course, we had a mink farm let a bunch of mink out recently, and that was in the news. And um, there's a lot of mink farms that have gone under. It talks about. He says wild mink will be extremely low, averages between 5 and 10, which is terrible for such a fun animal to trap. And I agree. I love trapping mink, but muskrats also struggle. He said, and muskrats are going to be low. They're always low. But he was talking about how a lot of the mink farmers have gone out of business right here. Thousands of ranch mink that were put on the market by farmers going out of business. So that's really what's happened is there's mink all over the place. A lot of the people that are selling fur and the organizations that sell them internationally are holding on to a ton of mink that they had from the ranchers because they got they liquidated and sold everything they could for pennies on the dollar. So now these guys are holding on to it until the price goes up so they can really cash in on it. And as they slowly get rid of it over the next few years, he says that the until the excess fur that has flooded the markets has been taken out of storage and used up, that this prices are going to remain pretty low. They're kind of blaming the Russian Ukrainian war for the raccoon prices, and I guess that makes sense, seeing how there's so many different international events that can cause, a fluctuation in the fur market, and so much of our fur goes to China and Russia and that part of Asia that the raccoons are just not going to be too great, and they're not expecting any big money. He says right here, he says longliners will target coons with prices struggling to exceed $5 or even $10. So if you got 30 40 coon that you put up, and you'll be lucky to get $5 to $10 out of them if they're really good fur, really primed up. He says even your best ones, you'll be lucky some of the best ones out there to be $20, and that's the largest and best coons that you can get and put on the market. So coons aren't going to do too good again, and then which is going to cause more coons to explode, which means we lose more turkeys. So even if you don't plan on selling coons, I think it would be good for us to target coons, especially the trappers around here that are just, involved in conservation. It would be incumbent upon us to target coons pretty heavy in our areas, just to kind of knock down the population, so they don't throw the turkey out of whack. They don't throw the quail out of whack. Where I'm at, quail have come back, and you can hear quail all the time around here. And I've been seeing quail a lot the last 2 years, but turkey are still far and few between. I know if you go south of me about 30, 40 miles, they see more turkey. And if you go south of me about south and west of me a little bit, about 40 miles, 50 miles, there's a whole bunch of turkey over there. And I have a feeling those guys have done a whole lot of good on those coons. I'm seeing some fluctuation in my chat here. I got 5 of you in here, but it looks like it's trying to cut out on me. So sorry about that. I'll try and go back to this and get through it so it doesn't mess up. The Fisher and Martins. I don't have Fisher and Martins. I don't have any of that down here, so that's not something that's going to be good for me. But it looks like they're averaging 40, so that's not bad. And some of the better ones bringing 50 to 55. And it talks a little bit about links in here, and you're looking at $120 average on most links, and top skin sitting around 150, and that's not horrible, but that's not necessarily great. Um, because some of the links, they're really beautiful. You'd think they'd do real good, kind of like a um, a Wolverine would. You think they'd be that great? Jeff says, I never understood why Europe and Asia can wear fur, but we wear plastic. We need an affordable fur garment market in the U.S. No, I agree. What it is the Marxists that have taken over our country have moved the propaganda against people that do things that are about tradition. Jeff, they want to destroy tradition. That's what Marxism does. It comes in and they train up the younger folks to kind of destroy tradition. I'll flip over my face for a second. They train up the younger folks to come in and destroy tradition, and then tear it down from within, and tear down the families from within. And one of the best ways to do that is to target the traditions, like their religions and the things that they do in their country that's a normal tradition. Um, but then you've got things like trapping and things like hunting, things that keep people grounded. I see those memes all the time where people are talking about you know, kids that run traps, or kids that hunt deer don't mug old ladies. Those types of memes, and that's a true thing. Kids that are busy in the woods, that have a family that love them and care about them, that are a nuclear family where the mother and father are together, or there's some semblance of a mother and father in their family, and they're out there doing the things that they should be doing to experience life and learn about life and grow up. They usually grow up and have a much better head on their shoulders. They're a lot more focused. They get more stuff done. Where these kids in yeah, nomadic air gunners talking about California destroying tradition, and they really have. But there's a lot of things over time that just aren't going to stand. The people that are running these governments now, that are doing all this bad Marxism, and pulling from Karl Marx, pulling from Mao's China, Mao's revolution, his Marxist revolution. They're doing things in a very similar manner, and targeting people that are into traditions. And trapping is one of the oldest traditions in the North American continent. So that's one of the big things. Hunting and trapping, things like that, are something that they want to get rid of entirely, because if they can destroy that, then we won't identify with stuff from the past anymore, and the kids growing up behind us will only identify with the pop stars and the rap stars, and the idiot pundits on the news telling them exactly what's what. So I don't buy into any of that. Hopefully most of y'all don't either. Let me put this back on here. getting through this fur market report. So we just got done talking about how the coons at 20 at best, and the fishers at 40 with the martins and fishers. That's a cool animal. I'd love to trap them one day, but you're going to see the higher ones 50 and 55 and up. Your lynx 120 to 150, which is really a great number for them up there, but it's still kind of low, I think. Now we're seeing that he says here, he starts this part about Western bobcats, and he says the Western bobcats no longer bring $1,000, and there will be some, I'm sure, that do go up 800, 900, 1,000, 1,200 bucks over in Nevada, but not too many. And Jeff says I'm going to go back to wearing buckskin. Yeah, right. Wouldn't that be nice if we had all of our own leathers and skins? I guess you do your own brain tanning, Jeff. So that's going to be good for you. Pair of jeans, yeah, 50, 60 bucks. I've been buying those cinch green and white labels. Those are the ones I like the best. And you can generally get them even FR. You can get them 35 to 50 if you buy them online. But hell, mine are so old and worn out. I need to get some new ones. Um, Nomadic Air Gunner says can only trap if you do it for pest control. That's right. I was watching your channel and I saw some of the stuff you got going on there, and I know that whenever it comes to coyotes, that they don't let regular trappers trap coyotes in California. And because of that, guys like you are probably pretty busy for pest control, but still coyotes are in cities and you see them on roofs. I've seen all kinds of crazy images of coyotes doing some crazy stuff in California because they're just like dogs in big cities around here. Anyway, Western Bobcats, he's saying here $1,000. They won't go up to $1,000, but they'll average around $300 for good Western Bobcats, and that some of the really high dollar ones will maybe exceed, won't exceed 900. So you're looking at still cats that are going to push for 7, 800. I still think you'll see some over $1,000 cats come out of Nevada. We'll wait and see exactly what happens, but over the next few months, things will change. But lesser quality bobcats. So this is going to be bobcats that aren't considered Western, bobcats that are in my area, bobcats in Missouri, bobcats in Kansas. A lot of those aren't going to go Western, maybe far west side of Kansas, far west Oklahoma, the North Texas Panhandle bobcats that are getting close to New Mexico, maybe those will go Western. But the rest of them are going to be kind of at an average at 100 to 150. So I averaged like 90, just under $97 on my cats last year. And I actually averaged better than that if you consider the ones I sold for taxidermy. But the ones I just sold in the first sales was about $97, like 96 and some change. And that was pretty good for me. That was a good year for me. I got my limit in bobcats last year, and if I was in Kansas, I'd be catching way more than 20 bobcats to take with me. But here they're saying that the market's going to be around 100 to 150, which means our buyers are probably going to try and buy them if they're reselling them up to the fur harvesters auction. They're probably going to try and buy them somewhere around 70 to 80. I wouldn't expect to see a whole bunch of high dollar cats come out of the places that aren't Western this year, but I'm still going to trap cats. I don't care if they're worth 20 bucks a pop. I'm trapping and skinning 20 cats this year. That's the goal. I mean, at the very minimum, I want to catch 20 cats. Last year I caught 29, but I'm looking to up that and just release, as many as I have to, but we'll see how that goes. But I'm gonna trap them even if they're worthless, and I'm trapping coyotes even if they're worthless. I just won't skin as many of them as I'd like to. So back to this lesser quality, 100, 150, and of course they're making cheaper bobcat jackets, which is good. People are into that kind of thing. I'd love to have some good fur that I caught, but it hadn't happened. I haven't all the fur that I've caught. I end up selling it all, or I've kept some of my first and my originals, and I still have them. But here it says the coyotes have fallen back down to low prices, which isn't any different than what we were seeing. This isn't any different than what we were seeing the last year and a half, 2 years. Coyotes are dead in most cases. A lot of people that aren't really into buying coyotes are going to lowball you real bad on coyotes if they buy them at all. And I had some coyotes that I PO'd at my last auction in Kansas because they went for just way too cheap. And if I would have not sold any of them, I could have brought them here and done better. The guys in Oklahoma are actually buying coyotes, but they weren't spending a ton of money. But I probably would have averaged 10 to 13, $14 a coyote if I'd have brought them all down here. But shoulda, coulda, woulda. Things happen. Um, You're seeing how the coyotes are down. It says western coyotes should catch them when they are prime. Unprimed pelts and eastern skins receive little interest at the time. If you sell coyotes around, many buyers can't pay more than $5 or $8 because they're also paying a guy to skin them at $5 to $10. So that's kind of going to be where it's at. A lot of people are going to be trying to get $20, $25 out of the coyotes that they're sending up north, and they're paying somebody to skin them. So that's because they got so many of them going on. Gray fox, it says no changes in the expected red and gray fox market. So we're still going to have low, decent prices for those paid for cross and silver foxes. So if you guys have access to cross and silver foxes and can trap them, you might do pretty good this year. And it says taxidermy goods such as wolves and wolverines and even black bears sell easily, and this is expected to last. If you catch anything unusual, totally white, totally black, unusual markings, or the exceptional size or quality, contact a few taxidermists, and chances are you'll receive more than you would selling them. And I'll have to testify. I believe that is absolutely true. And I haven't lined up, any other buyers, but I've had a buyer in the past, and my cats are what I try and sell for taxi because I can get 2.5 to 3.5 times the money out of them by doing that than I can if if I put them up and sell them. And a lot of the cats that I did sell for taxidermy probably would have sold for around 150, 175 last year. Some of the good sales that I had, or some of the good prices I had on cats. And I always put cats by themselves. I never, anytime I have I'm selling a cat or I've got a really nice coat or a really nice cool animal, I always sell it by itself in for a lot. I never team up cats together or coyotes together that are really good. So very few coyotes are ever good enough where you're going to put it by itself. Usually you put three in a lot or, five in a lot. But cats I always put by themselves every time. And some places you have to do, you have to put them in lots because you have so many more, and they only allow you to have so many lot numbers within your sale. So that depends on, every state's different. Every place is going to be different. But it looks like here it says that the skinning and freezing an animal whole, or skinning or freezing animal, has a lot to do with the taxidermist and how you're going to sell it to them. And the guy that I've sold stuff to in the past, he wanted them dorsal cut, and I've never done a dorsal cut before. And I'm one of those guys I'm real, I stick with a routine, and when I get into a routine, that's kind of how I do it. And I'm used to case skinning them the way I would always. I figured out how to skin out the feet and do all the work and sell them that way, where you still got the bones inside the feet, but everything else is there. But good taxidermist, he told me, he said, I can put it up however you give it to me. He says, you send me a coyote or a bobcat that's got a shotgun blast to its midsection. He said, I can put it together and make it look good and it'll sell. And I learned that, the taxidermists they're artists. They're not just they're not just guys putting something on a form trying to sell it and make money. They're actual artists that love the animal and love making it look good after its death and trying to do everything they can to maximize the animal's potential since it's actually been used. And that's what a lot of people do. In the tradition of trapping and hunting, we take the animal down, but we don't just let it lie. We take it, we skin it, we take all the meat off it we can, we harvest all the parts of it we can, the bones and the glands and the things that that can be used for on our part. And because we care about the animal and we want the animal to continue, we want conservation efforts to continue, and that's part of the tradition of hunting and trapping and all the many different things that you do when it comes to outdoors, is trying to preserve what we got. So taxidermists are a real good example of that because they preserve wildlife that's already been taken out, and that wildlife probably fed somebody already or has already been used in a positive manner for somebody, and then they take the remainder of it, that skin, and they turn it into something that's beautiful that people can use and look at, and I really like that. Nomadic Air Gunner says, I'm still taking coyote furs with air guns from a personal collection. That's good. No, I'm not on Etsy. I haven't thought about selling furs on there. And speaking of that, there's something, about the fur market I wanted to show you guys on here. So we talked about the fur market report, and then you guys have probably all seen this, especially you guys that have been trapping a while. But they're in here. They've got the prime species guide for best fur of the season, and I've seen a very similar image to this in the past. And it basically gives you the rundown. And see, we're looking at this in a manner where you can only see one page at a time. but this should be split between two pages in the paper version, where you'd be able to see across the page and kind of see what it shows for the peak times of the fur sale, or of the fur, when to harvest the fur. And coyotes here, they say mid-January they start to peak out, but that's going to be for more northern states. Last year it was December 12th, I think it was. December 12th, I caught my first coyote that had back fur missing. And after that, it was a mess. So um, hopefully you guys, I don't know if you can see my cursor at all. I don't think I see it on the screen. But I was hoping you guys could see my cursor. But you can see the coyotes right there. And it's showing that, mid-January. So you people that are further north, say, you know north of Indiana, North Dakota, anything, Montana, those places, you're probably going to have good coyote fur all the way through January. I don't mess with Fisher. If you guys do Fisher, it looks like they prime up in November, and they're great all the way through December. Fox, I've only caught one fox in my life, and it was a gray fox. And I still got it in the freezer and haven't put it up yet. I was going to taxi it, so I might still do that. Lynx, they don't show you the bobcat, because whenever it comes to a graph like this, lynx and bobcat fur are pretty much the exact same. Of course, the further south you go, the later it comes in and the earlier it goes out. But it kind of shows you in here the lynx and how it continues on through February. And so that's a great thing. And of course, our beaver are going to be great all the way into March. And you're going to get great castor all the way through April and May. If you're still trapping for nuisance, you're going to have a good chance of castor. But bobcats is really what I target for the most part after December 15th. Everything before that is going to be coyotes, and then maybe some coons. I don't know that I'm going to do any skinning of coons. But coons are going to be pretty good starting here in November, the end of November. And usually here they get yellow bellied, and you start having that yellow on the belly right around Christmas, right around the 1st of January. It's kind of whenever they start getting yellow bellied, and then by the mid-January, they've still got prime fur, but they've got yellow bellies. They don't look very good. And with the way you put up coons, you put them with the skin out, and when you put them with the skin out, mostly pretty much the only thing they can really see is that back fur right there, that back patch. And I'm not saying that you should cheat, but if you got yellow belly coons, I'd probably just dump them. Skunks, I'm going to be in for skunks. Every skunk I get, I'm going to get and sell. And that's about it on my end. I don't, you guys might mess with weasels, wolf, and wolverines, depending on how far north you are. But I don't have a lot of that. There were a couple other great articles in this Trapper Mag that were actually worth having. There's this article here, the Clint Taylor article, and if you guys get a chance, you should check this one out. It's pretty cool to see kind of how he did stuff and to kind of see a story. I'd never heard of Clint Taylor before I saw this article, but there's a lot of great stuff in here, and it's a good time. It's a good time. You see some of the great pictures of him, trapping in the snow, and it looks like he's probably got a lot of snares set up right there, as you can see. And I love to dirt trap. I really can only snare for nuisance jobs. And some of the places that I'll fur trap, I also do nuisance work on, but most of them I won't. So there definitely won't be any snares in any random spots this year. You can see how beautiful the underbelly of that coyote is, up with his cold weather up there. See if I can find that other article. Yeah, right here. This was a decent article too. And it was real short. It's basically just kind of an update. Tom Bernadette, I can't say that, Bernadette. I say it wrong all the time. Whatever, you can say it. But he just does, kind of a basic rundown of, how important it is for a trapper to be involved with the changes that happen in his land, and that, trapping, basically trappers are some of the best outdoorsmen in the sense that they have to study animal behavior, study the behavior of their food in order to be able to get, to be able to set their traps in the right location, to be able to find the animals and catch the animals. And whenever the food changes, you know that because the food's changed, you've got to change your tactics. And it's just, most people that have been trapping a while understand this and know it. If you want bobcats, I'm looking for rabbits. So, and I've got rabbits everywhere around here. So that's why our bobcat population was so good last year. and I hope it stays that way for the years to come. I'm going to try and, not trap too hard on the bobcats right here close to the house, and kind of move out 4, 5, 6, 7 miles away from me and get bobcats that are kind of a population I hadn't really touched on too much. But, we've got bobcats because we have so many rabbits. And if we were to have a big die off on the rabbits, like he talks about in this article, that what happens is the bobcats can still be there, but their patterns are going to change because now they're looking for food. What's up, PA Trapping and Outdoors? How you doing, bud? So that's just one of the things to look at. He talks about how a trapper that is willing to learn nature's rhythms and study the trapping way of life. He says down here, a trapper that is willing to learn nature's rhythms and study the trapping way of life will become an or master outdoorsman, and that's just the way it works. And that is true. I feel like the more I trap, the more I get involved in what's going on, directly in my local area, scouting, looking at the animals, looking at their bait, looking at what kind of food they're after, their prey food, and studying it. The more I learn about, trapping, the more I learn about the animals in general. And that's true for a lot of cases. And I'm not knocking hunters, if you're a hunter, that's a great thing. Um, I love to hunt, but there's not as great of a reward. You hunt. Some guys got a lot of freedom. They got a good job. They're able to hunt, twice a week throughout hunting season, the whole time, and they do real good. Some guys have to save up and spend, a week or two of their PTO to take off to go do a hunting trip specifically. And other people, regular people, work all through the week the whole time and get out, 4, 5, 6 days if they're lucky to hunt. And maybe they kill something, maybe they don't. Especially if they're trophy hunting, it's likely that they might not the whole year. But I'm not like that. I hunt for meat, and I like trapping better because it's super rewarding. You get into it, every single day. You're eating, living, and breathing it every single day throughout the whole season. And you can pull up and just run a trap line for a couple of weeks if you do. And if you can do that kind of thing, I'm not knocking you. But I'm one of those people that's all in. I'm jumping in head first, and whatever I do, and when I do it, I'm all the way into it until I'm not into it, until it's over with. And trapping something, I'm going to start November 1st. I'm going to go through the whole year. Lord willing, truck works in, everything's up and running. That's what's going to happen. Johnny Boy says, I'm from Illinois, so only harvest one bobcat a year. Ouch. Ouch. John, that hurts, man. I'm trying to get them to allow us to have a tag, not so much a tag that we can buy, but a license that we can buy that'll give us an extra allotted amount of bobcats. And I think I talked about this in a live stream, my first live stream a little bit, but in Oklahoma, something like the amount of trappers that are out there, the average bobcat taken by trappers is like 2.3 or 3.2, something like that. And I forgot the exact number, but the average bobcat's 2.3 or 3.2, somewhere in that range. And there's so many different trappers and hunters out there, and they're taking very few and tagging very few. And the wildlife biologists, and prayers for that guy, Jared Davis, prayers for him. His son's 10 months old and just went into surgery. So he's not even going to make it to our fall rendezvous because he's busy with his kid in recovery, which is rough. So prayers for that guy. But John, yeah, taking one bobcat a year would kill me. I would be doing everything I could to move. I, just because I got into bobcats, if I grew up in a place or I lived in a place and I'd always been trapped in a place where you could never take bobcats and it was something you didn't see too many and you just didn't have it, I probably wouldn't have that feeling. But the fact that I've seen so many bobcats when you're sitting in a deer stand, or you're out doing some scouting and you got bobcat scat all over the place, and I've finally caught my limit last season. I never caught my limit before that. The other 3 seasons before that I've been trapping bobcats, I didn't catch my limit. And the first season, I think I got 7 or 8 bobcats. But I I got the bug. I got the bobcat bug, and I wish I could have more than that. So I've been trying to lean on Jared and the folks at ODWC to try and figure out a way to make them money so I can get more tags. Because only, I think, seven in 2022, only 7 trappers hit their limit and tagged their limit in bobcats. And I think in 2021, it was something like 15 or 14 trappers tagged their limit in bobcats. And he expected for the 2023 season that um, only about 10 of us would tag our limit in bobcats. and at least 3 or 4 of us were at the first sale. So I'm excited about moving that limit up. At least everybody has the opportunity to do it, but if you're going to do it, you got to pay a little extra money. I'd be okay with that because I want to catch 40 bobcats. I want to catch 60 bobcats. If they let me move that limit up, I might change the way I do things and set up a long line going north towards Kansas and try and find me some spots where I can really get into bobcats and catch 40 or 50 of them. That'd be great. The end of your comment there, Johnny said, what did it say? It said no only have one bobcat a year. That's if you put in for the lottery and get a permit. Wow. So not even everybody can do it. You have to put in for lottery and win. That's horseshit, buddy. That's what that is. Yeah. If you had plenty of cats, I can't imagine not doing it. And the only reason, John, and this is what I'm finding out, they're not letting y'all do it because they're getting nothing out of it. And if you get in there and find a way to make them some money in order for open up bobcats, I'll bet they'll find a way to do it. Jeff says, Johnny, come to Missouri, we have no limit. Yeah, see, that's the thing, Jeff, that really kind of gets under, it sticks in my craw. And when I was talking shop with the guy at ODWC, that's my argument, is that every single state that borders Oklahoma has no limit on bobcats, every single one of them. And we have a limit on bobcats, but only maybe 10 or 15 trappers even limit out. So the purpose in having a limit on it doesn't benefit or harm anybody except the trappers. Because the ones who actually have the capability to produce 20, 30, 40 bobcats, they're the only ones who have that are limited, and that get screwed basically because they can't do it. Everybody else doesn't even try to do it, or everybody else can't do it, or they don't have the time, or they're not putting out enough traps or whatever. In Oklahoma, if you don't have a lifetime license, you can only use 20 traps, and they all have to be tagged. Everything has to be on the up and up. If you have a professional trapper's license, you can have a non-lifetime resident hunting license, and then that covers your trapping license. But if you want to use more than 20 traps, you have to buy a professional trapper's license. And I've never done that. I've been a NUCO the whole time, so I don't even know what that cost. I bet it's not too expensive. I'll bet it's another 25, $30 or something, and I could probably look it up and find out, but I have no idea exactly how much the resident professional trapper's license is. But the guys who do a lot of trapping that don't have a lifetime license, they have to get one of those in order to use more than 20 traps. Yeah, John, you should get into Missouri sometime. Maybe one day in the future, if I start actually doing something with this YouTube and doing something with this show, I might start traveling to places to do trapping more often. PA Trapping Outdoors says we can trap one bobcat, one fisher, and one otter. Damn. But otter and bobcat, I got to drive 20 minutes north to the next hunting unit. Huh. So you can't even do it in the hunting unit you're in. That sucks. Do you got PA? Do you have bobcat sign? Do you see bobcats regularly, or see sign and activity? Dang, you got to pay $5 just to get in that lottery. That's wild. Nope, only Fisher. Wow. So you don't have a whole lot anyway. So yeah, I mean, like I said before, I'm not a big fan of, government. Not at all. But I like the fact that North America, both Canada and the United States, have not just federal, but also state conservation, institutions that actually work at conserving the animals that we do have so we can have more in the future. I figure being up there in Pennsylvania, maybe you'd come across some links from time to time. Maybe they're just further out west. Um, I know that the guys in Canada, they get some really good ones, and sometimes in the northern part of the United States, you're going to come across some of them, but not very often. It's mostly bobcats, and I know Montana's got some nice bobcats. So your permit for trapping is $10 for residents, Jeff. So in Missouri, do you have a lifetime license opportunity? Do they give you that, the opportunity to have a lifetime license? Wow. So PA trapping, you did catch two bobcats last year in what is it? Your what did you call it? Your hunting unit, and you had to let it go. Okay, so no links till you get upstate New York or Maine. That's cool. I'd love to go into Maine sometime. I've been to almost every state traveling through the eastern seaboard, and I went to New Hampshire, and we just crossed over into Maine for just a second. We were up there, stayed in New Hampshire for a week and a half. That was a good time when I was a kid. I haven't done much traveling like that since I was a kid, but it was a good time. So Jeff, you have one permit for trapping. It's $10 for a resident. Is that, and that's just per year? $10 per resident per year. And I guess since it's a federal thing, you still, if you get otter and cats, you still have to tag them all. The CITES tags or whatever it's called. Jeff, Johnny, PA. Looks like it's just Jeff, Johnny, and PA. I got two other concurrent viewers, but I don't know who they are. Chime in if you got something to say. I'll be willing to chat. If there's something else in this, Trapper Mag I wanted to show. I don't think there was. I showed you guys the. I showed you guys the fur prime chart, and I really like that. And there's something else I wanted to show, and I'll show it to you here. So this was the Sleepy Creek Tannery and Fur Dressing updated prices. And I don't know if you guys do any tanning or sell for, or, send your stuff off to get tanned anywhere. I never have, but I got stuff that needs to be tanned. PA Trap and Outdoors says Wildlife Management Unit. Yeah, I had to let them both go. The second one was during the season, but I wasn't trapping up north yet. I still had my line 20 miles away from where you could have legally tagged it. Wow. Yeah, that's rough, man. To know that you can only have, a certain amount. You can have one. Yeah, it says one bobcat, one fisher, one otter. So you can have one, and you caught two, and you couldn't keep either one of them. That sucks. But you keep catching them and releasing them in your area and keeping that going for a while, and they might open it up in your hunt unit, and you might be able to catch one or two in your hunt unit next time. And you caught them both the same day? Where did it say? Not a lot. Caught two bobcats last year, a few miles apart. So no, not necessarily the same day. What I happens down here because I got so many bobcats is my bobcat sets are money. You get a bobcat set going here, and once they've pissed in it, you got a female in there pissing in your bobcat set. I mean, you're set. That as long as I nurse those sets for the entire season as long as I can, as long as they don't put cows in that pasture and I don't get kicked out of that pasture for some other reason. That bobcat set, any set I caught a bobcat in, stays until I'm forced to pull it because those are some of the. I can't tell you. It's probably been about 8 times now, 9 times now in my 5 years that I've spent trapping over the last 7.5 years. I I've caught bobcats one night, and the next morning I got another bobcat in the same set, or the next morning I got a bobcat in the set right next to it, and real close. And it's happened at least 8 times, probably. It happened twice to me last year, and it's on video. And my the second episode of my show, episode 2, which is a bobcat catch and release episode. Um, in that episode, I have I released two bobcats back to back. One of them I had my kid with me, and the next day I had my nephew with me, and they were in the exact same trap. And then the final two cats that I catch are in the same set too. And you won't see that for another until the 12th. That comes out next Thursday, the 12th, the final episode of my show. Two good bobcat catches in that one. But going back to this, what Jeff here say? Jeff said, "Oh, you said it was a week apart." Jeff said, "I can't remember if there's a lifetime trapping. I know there's a lifetime for hunting. I buy all permits annually. Yes, CITES tags on bobcats and otter. Yeah, I knew you did on that, but I didn't. I've been a fan of the lifetime license here in Oklahoma, and apparently I've noticed as I've looked at the regulations of other states, whenever I thought about just kind of seeing what they got going on and digging into it, that a lot of the states don't have a lifetime license opportunity, and some states don't even allow trappers from out of state to come there. Here they allow trappers from out of state, but they I mean they charge them. It costs money. And I noticed Arkansas is pretty high for out-of-state trappers. Some of the other places, out-of-state trapper tags are expensive, or trapper license are expensive. But one of these days, I might go up and hang out with my buddy Len Dunham up in Kansas sometime and spend a couple weeks on his line. That's a couple years down the road, but he's still trapping hard, and he slays the dogs and cats up there. PA Trapping Outdoors says, few days before Christmas because I caught a gray fox there. Nice. I've only caught one gray fox. I love that catch. It was on a cat set that I had on a drag, and I had a fox in it. He was trying to get up a tree. Caught a gray fox there Christmas Day, and I think the bobcat scent there attracted the gray fox. Yep. So Christmas Eve, you had a bobcat. Christmas Day, gray fox. That's pretty good. Hunting and stuff. What's up, bud? We're doing good. We just went over the fur market report in the new Trapper Mag, and I was just going to kind of touch on a couple things and just kind of chat with everybody while everybody was around. It looks like it's starting to pick up. We had 4 or 5 people in here before, and then now we've got 9 viewers in here, so it is starting to pick up. Whenever this is over, you'll be able to go back and check this out. It'll be public. And I just kind of touched on, the news from the new fur market report that was in the November edition of the Trapper Mag. So it was just something I wanted to talk about. I think I'm gonna start doing that more often. I'm just gonna keep up to date on all the stuff that I can find, some of the cool articles and some of the news and information, and then I'm gonna bring it out and put it up on a live stream. PA Trappin says, here we allow non-residents unless you're from Minnesota. Why is that? What's the beef with Minnesota? I got to hear that. I got to hear what the beef is. There's always some kind of thing where maybe it's because Minnesota doesn't allow non-resident trappers. So there's what's the word they call I can't say the word. It's like reciprocity. That's the word. Reciprocity. They do that with firearms whenever it comes to having a license or open carry. Like we're an open carry constitutional carry state now, but just 4 or 5 years ago we were a concealed carry state, and Texas just started doing open carry, but before that you had to have a license, and here you had to have a license, and I never I never had a license to carry a gun. I've been carrying a gun since I was 21. But nobody can tell me I can't protect myself. I don't give a shit what laws people break. uh, Pennsylvania, I don't know. Grays went that far north. That's great. They almost gone around here. Man, I don't see too many grays around here, but I know they're here. And the closer you get to Arkansas, there's a lot more around. Johnny says grays are the same around here. Not many at all. Yeah, I'd love to. What we don't have is reds. If we have reds, but they're only in town. And I mean, you have to be in town because coyotes are so thick and hogs are so thick that the reds stay in town. And I've seen pictures. We got a lady that works at a local restaurant, and she found out I was a trapper, and I handed her my card. I was talking to her while we were checking out at the restaurant, and she's showing me pictures on her phone. She got videos on her phone. The lot next to her house inside town here is empty. The place is abandoned. So the fox have taken over underneath the porch and on the porch. And she's got just hours of video that she takes with her phone. And the fox is just playing around on the porch. They own the place now because nobody runs it, nobody controls it, and it's not taken care of. And the foxes just live in town because they can't live outside of town. Lots of grays up in western Pennsylvania, not many in eastern Pennsylvania. Yep. Nomadic Air Gunner says the only way I can trap in California is if I do it for a customer. Yeah, that's right. You got to do NUCO work. Hey, Nomadic, do you guys have to have a NUCO license? What kind of training do you have to go through to get the ability to charge for nuisance work in California? Some states, like in some states you have to have a NUCO license, some states you don't. I think Arkansas you don't have to have it, but in Oklahoma I had to get it in order to be able to charge for it because I wanted to trap all year. So I started charging people to do it so I could do it all the time. You said the only way I can trap in California is not customer that own property and live cages. So it's got to be a customer, not just private, but a customer. And the license due is very high. Order a copy of that Trapping magazine. Yeah, you can get the digital copy and just have it sent to your email, and I think it's cheap. It's and if you I what I did is I did the digital and the print. So the print was 18.95, and the digital and print was 21.95 or something. So I just did them both. That way I could do this kind of thing with you guys. And I'll try and get digital with the other ones I do too. PA Trapping Outdoors says I caught 5 grays last year, no reds. Usually catch a few reds every year. Yeah, I've never caught a red. I've had one red on my game cam that I had set up on the North Canadian River west of Oklahoma City whenever I was the second year I was trapping out there. I had a red on camera, and I got a little video of him. It's probably still in my other computer somewhere, but it was cool. I was excited because I actually wanted to catch some fox. But the thing is, we have so few fox. I'm afraid to catch them. But if I get nuisance work, go inside town, then I can do it. But I've never had anybody actually hire me for a nuisance job on fox in town. It's never happened. And they're in town. I know they are because sometimes I see them dead on the road. Hunting and stuff said the same here. Johnny says I beat on the yotes pretty bad around my area, and the reds are moving back in. That's You really are knocking the yotes down if the reds are moving back in because that's what keeps them down. But here it's not just the coyotes; it's also the hogs. And hogs aren't real bad right here where I'm at. And when they do get bad, next year I'm getting a hog trap. I'm going to get one of those pig brigs, and I'm going to start hog trapping. The nuisance guys here, I say the nuisance guys, the local lieutenant, the ODWC in this county. I've been talking to him pretty regularly the last few years, and I see him a lot because where I work. And he told me, he said, yeah, they charge, it's 500 minimum just to set up, and I can sell the hogs here if I want to. There's a lot of high fence areas around here that do just hog hunts, and it's something I get into. If I get a trailer, obviously I don't have a trailer. I've never really messed with cattle or anything like that. What I do around cattle is trap around them so I can kill the coyotes that are trying to eat their calves. I've never done any cowboying. Hell, I've only been on a horse like 3 times in my life, and that's something I regret. But I wish I had more experience with ranch life. But I don't even have a trailer. But I found out that those pig brigs, the way they've got a seam in them, you can set them up ahead of time whenever you set up the pig brig, and you put in your T-post, and you put an extra couple T-posts where the seam is, and you can open up that seam, back your trailer right up to it with the ramp, and you'll use cattle panels or hog panels that run along the side of it, and then you just use like quick links or snap links to link your hog panel to the pig brig, and then you pull the seam out and you open up the door and you attach it to that hog panel, and those hogs have a perfect doorway that goes straight up into a trailer. And whenever I called Pig Brig this last year when I got my taxes back, I was going to buy one, but I couldn't get anybody to bite on on any nuisance work for them, so I didn't end up doing it. I'm spending that money on something else. And the guy that owns Pig Brig, I talked to him, and he knows a guy in Oklahoma that uses a Pig Brig to catch hogs real good, and he sent me a video that guy made of how to set it up like that and how they did it, and it was actually really cool. So you can use a Pig Brig to catch hogs and make money. So you got to just take a test. What do you have to charge? You have to charge Nomadic Air Gunner. Do you have to charge? Did they charge you for the information in order to study for the test and to take the test, or did you have to buy an expensive license and just take the test for free? Because here you got to pay $200 to get the test, which is online, and you can do it all online, and you can basically cheat if you want to because they give you, it's not really cheat, it's open book. They give you a book that's part of the online thing, and you can just go through and cycle through each one of the folders or files within it and find your answer, and then put your answer on there. And they give you 3 tries to get over 80% to pass it. And so I took the test. It cost me 200 to get the ODWC test, or I say it's ODWC. It's a Nuisance Wildlife Control Operator of America test, I think is what it is. And then once you have that, then you have to pay at $85 a year for your license, or $75 a year for your license. Hey Jeff, what's up, bud? Jeff from Minnesota. I appreciate you, man. I like getting in the community here now. I was telling guys the last couple times I've gone live, I've been making YouTube videos for quite a while, and they weren't all great. They might have had decent content, but they weren't, it wasn't well put together, wasn't edited very good. I didn't have any kind of cool graphics or anything, and I started doing that the last year and a half, kind of doing a little better and trying to change them up and make things better. And I wasn't communicating with the community. I wasn't involved in the YouTube community at all. So these lives are kind of a way for me to get involved a little better, get to know people a little better. I can go live from the computer without any issues, and I can have as many people watch it as I want. But whenever I go live from the phone, and now YouTube just changed their stuff up, and I don't know if I can show it, but if you guys have a YouTube, all of you have the capability to go live now, even if you don't have 1,000 subs. And a lot of you might have more than 1,000 subs. I don't know. And I might be able to show this on camera. So now in the section right there, I guess yeah, in the section right there, it says go live. Well, the last 3 days it said new. It had a little new tag next to that. And I clicked it, and I can go live from the phone now anywhere. And it's only my subscribers and 25 people that aren't subscribed to my channel can watch it. So I'm excited about that because now I can go live anywhere I want. And I'll do that when I'm scouting, and I'll do that when I see crazy stuff on the line. If I don't have all my cameras on me and I'm recording it, and I'm not set up to record it, if I just see something crazy happen, I'll just go live so I have a record of it that people can look at later. Excuse me. But yeah, Jeff, I've seen you in the Trapper J chats and the Iowa Trapper chats. So glad to have you on board, bud. I didn't see if any of them went live tonight. I don't think they did, and I don't like stepping on their toes because they got all the trappers, and I watch their stuff live now. And if they're gonna go live, I'll just watch. I'll go live afterwards if I'm gonna go. But we Jeff, we earlier in this live, I went through the fur market report for the new Trapper Mag that came out this month, and the updated fur market report and what they had to say. And it looks like beaver are going to be good. Cats are going to be kind of similar, but still down a little bit. Coyotes are going to be down no matter what, and coons are going to be down no matter what. But beaver are going to do good. So beaver and cats is what I'm going to concentrate on. Otter if I get them, and that's about it when it comes to skin anyway. Nomadic Gunner says I own a landscape company that does pest control for ranches and farms. See, that's a way to innovate right there. Do you do moles, Nomadic? Oh, you said the test is free and the study materials are free, but the license itself is 145 annually. See, I guess they do get more out of you in the long run than they do in Oklahoma because our license is 75 or 85, I forget exactly, and that's every year. And but the test was 200, and I don't think that $200 test actually goes to the state of Oklahoma. Maybe it does. Maybe they host, the trappers that do that through that website. But I think that website we did it on it's a national website, National Nuco. Ground squirrels. So what kind of stuff do you deal with in pest control there? I mean, obviously ground squirrels, but do you have like, ground hogs, and do you have skunks? How's your skunk population in California where you're at? And, what kind of coon population you got over there? Is that another thing that a lot of people like to have taken out? Farmers and ranchers especially. Ground squirrels. That's the big thing. The I was talking about this last night, and I've talked about it before, but a lot of the guys that I know that do nuisance work here in Oklahoma, they don't get a chance to fur trap. They uh, they spend all their time, taking care of moles and squirrels and armadillos and skunks, and they do good at that and they have a good time doing it. But they're always getting paid doing some kind of jobs where they've got contracts and stuff like a lot of pest control companies do. And they never have time to fur trap anymore. And you try to get them out to the rendezvous and the spring events when it comes to the Oklahoma Fur Bearers Alliance, and they can't make it because they're busy. And I kind of wish I was that busy when it came to nuisance work. I rarely get jobs right now. I live out in cattle country, East Oklahoma, and there's a lot of ranchers around here, but most of them just shoot their coyotes, or they have people run dogs on them, or they just let them do whatever they do. They don't mess with it. But I've seen a big change in what's happened in the ranch here close to the house and the coyotes that I killed last year, so I was happy about that. Jeff says he's met all those guys at the conventions. Great group of guys. Share your channel and help you get some subscribers. Jeff, I appreciate it, bud. I'd love to get more subs. I'd love to be able to move up a little bit. I'd like YouTube to kind of turn a profit. From what I understand, the way YouTube works is you can, if you've got enough subs to see enough of your videos, I've seen some videos on YouTube where some of the people that aren't trapping related talking about how much money they make the first year they were, the first month and the first year that they were monetized. And they would do one video. Some of them did one video a week. Some of them did two videos a week, and they would get, you know, 500, 600 to 1,000 views on their videos, and they would make pretty good money. It's actually a pretty good little income. And we're in a place where I work a job now. I'm a welder by trade and a trapper by trade, but the welding jobs around here are far and few between. You got to travel to do it, and I've got a wife and four kids in the house now, so I try to be home every night and be here every morning when they get up. So I work a job that pays me very little, that just keeps the bills paid around here, so I can have time to trap and hopefully build this trapping business up. I started making YouTube videos to kind of point people at my trapping business, just because I enjoyed, you know, making videos and trapping, and I thought I'd put them two together and see what happened. You know, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life, and I say that a lot. I say it in my show sometimes, and it's something, you know, that I really love doing. So even though things can be stressful, it's a great time, and I operate well under stress. But I uh, I started recording everything last season instead of just recording stuff that I thought was interesting, and then I made an entire season show, TV show this year, and it's almost fully run out. So if you get a chance, Jeff, check it out and see what you think. But yeah, I appreciate you sharing it, letting people know. It looks like you said you love watching my cat catches, and you got ahead of it. All right, Jeff, I'll see you later, bud. I appreciate it. Kyle, what's up, bud? What's up, Kyle? Um, we've been live a little bit. Hell, we've been live an hour now, but now we got more viewers than we had an hour ago. Kyle, we started out going through the fur market report from the new Trapper Mag, and we just kind of touched on it a little bit. I started getting the digital version of this Trapper Mag just 2 days ago, yesterday, and we went through the fur market report here and just kind of touched on some of the prices. But it looks like your beavers are going to average 30, which is going to be where the money's at for most people that have access to beavers. So if you guys are getting geared up for trapping, I love to coyote trap. I love to do everything else. Yeah, Kyle, there is some positive things. Most of it's beaver. The cats are still going to be down. The cats in places that are not western are still going to go for 100 to 150. So it looks like our buyers and places. I don't know where you at, Kyle. Our buyers are going to be buying somewhere probably between 70 and 85 for the, you know, the higher cats. So if you got connections with people that you can sell directly to somebody that's going to turn it into a garment, or directly to somebody that's going to turn it into taxidermy, that's going to be where your money's at in the cats, eastern Nebraska. So you probably got some pretty decent coats in Nebraska, don't you? You got some decent coyotes anyway. You probably do good on coyotes if you can catch you a mess of them. I guess in eastern Nebraska, what's your weather like during the deep trapping season, during the good fur? Do you have to snare for coyotes, or can you use dirt traps? All right, PA Trapping Outdoors. I appreciate you stopping in, bud. Starting here October 21st, have some trapping videos out. We'll be looking for them, bud. We'll be looking for those trapping videos. Yeah, see, that's it, Air Gunner. It's hard for guys who do nuisance to get jobs where they get to do the fun stuff. It's just it's the grind. You got to get to the grind, and that's I basically concentrate on skunks, beaver, and coyotes for my nuisance work, and I've kind of bought the stuff to be able to handle snakes. And my folks, we live here on the property of my folks, and they have about, I don't know, 15 bee nooks out here, and they like to hang on to bees. So they have the capability and the equipment to be able to do bees and cutouts. My uncle is actually a carpenter, and he lives here too with my grandpa. And you know, that's something I'm going to offer. Bees and hogs are kind of what I'm going to innovate to in the future. Over the next year or two, I'm going to start advertising more for bees and hogs on my website, and start doing more of that. And whenever I do that, I'll make sure to record it in the future and put those. That'll be good content too, to see people doing, you know, time lapse cutouts on bees and pulling bees out of somebody's house, and that'd be pretty cool. All right, hunting stuff. Thanks for coming in, bud. I appreciate it. Yep, Kyle, that's basically what I'm doing. November to the end of December, I'm coyotes pretty much only, and then I'm gonna transition to cats in mid-December, and then I'm gonna stick with cats and beaver for the rest of the season. And I've got some mink spots, so I'm gonna pull in some mink just because I want them, even though they're not worth nothing. I just like trapping mink. I think that's cool. Yeah, Kyle. Do you guys have what's your laws like in Nebraska when it comes to to bobcats? Oh, sorry guys. I didn't realize that I had this other thing on still. That's something you gotta something you gotta pay attention to when you're switching back and forth between a browser or something else and this. I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I'm you can't even see me. Not that it matters. You probably be better off looking at the trapper mag than this ugly mug anyway. But yeah, Kyle, what's it like for your laws when it comes to bobcats there? I'm gonna grab a drink. Yeah, I was gonna show this to them earlier, and I'll go ahead and do it now while I'm sitting here waiting on the chat to pick up. There's six of us left, so if you guys end up having a bounce, we'll just shut this down. But the Sleepy Creek Tannery and Fur um, updated their prices, and you can see here that it looks like the beaver's 32 to have it tanned, which isn't it's not a bad price. But then your coyotes are 30, so that's just a piece. And if you're sending them, you're probably going to send more than 5 skins, so you're probably going to be somewhere in the cheaper version. But deer 75, elk at 275, and then lynx at 32. So that's going to be same for bobcat. Bobcat and lynx are both going to be 32. If you do about 20 skins, you're going to be at 27 a pop. So if I catch 20 bobcats, that I would probably average around 85 to 100 on my cats, and then I send them all off to get tanned at 27 bucks a piece. So you're looking at what, $560 is what it would cost. $540 is what it cost for me to do 20 bobcats. But then if I could sell them for 200, 250, 300 a piece, it'd be worth it. Mink here, so it costs 17 bucks to do mink, a single mink, but mink only sell for about 10 bucks. So I don't know what they sell for whenever they're tanned. Let's see here if I can show you more about that. Possums, it looks like 16 bucks to tan possums. And then in the bottom here, you'll see it's $45 to tan a wolverine. So tan a skunk, 22 bucks. Raccoon tanning's 23 bucks. So anyway, I figured I'd kind of show you all that. I'll switch back over to my ugly mug so you guys can see that instead. All right, Kyle said, my only fear is the amount of snow we get. Last year, my season was cut really short. Yeah, my season didn't get cut short, but we had a lot of rain, and I'll bet you guys, being as cold as you are, got a lot of snow. And since we had so much rain, it kind of slowed things down there at the end, and I was really starting to pick up coyotes too, and I had some snares out, but I didn't do very good. So since you got 7 feet of snow and it couldn't get any of the properties you had permission to trap on. What do I want to know as far as bobcat laws go? So you got December 1st season. That's when our bobcat season opens. What kind of limit do you have on bobcats, and what are the methods you can take them with? Do you just have to use dirt traps? Can you use cages too? Are you forced to use one trap and not the other? And are you allowed to use snares on anything, just as a regular trapper up there? I got a new sub here called Ken Jones. Uh, it's cool. I'll sub to that guy too. Yeah, I don't know the laws in a lot of states. I enjoy I enjoy learning about it, and I'm gonna learn a lot about the laws. Like I said, I'm gonna try and start doing a live stream probably once a week during trapping season, and then twice a week after trapping season, where I just get on for about an hour and 15 minutes straight, and I'll do a broadcast, and I'll set it up where I can bring up images and videos, and show like I did today when it came to the Trapper mag. I'll be able to show stuff out of those mags, and we'll be able to talk about it, maybe have discussions about it, and just kind of get people that are online a little more involved in the stuff that's going on in the trapping industry and the stuff that's going on when it comes to current events for trapping. I think that'd be good content. It'll boost my page a little bit. It'll help me get out there a little bit, and it's good content for even people that read all these magazines and know a lot of this stuff. Maybe the Johnny Walker bottle is not the best content, but well, it is what it is. It's late. It's late. So yeah, I had something else I thought about talking about. Oh yeah, it was a video from there's a video from Instagram I was gonna show, but I don't have the audio set up properly where you pick up my browser audio and you can actually hear it. I haven't figured that out yet, and I got to get that figured out. A lot of times when I've done broadcast in the past on other subjects, and whenever I do that, I'd have double mics, just like I started out doing here when we were first doing this. Ooh, so you can use snares on everything, Kyle. Not restricted on trap size or cages. Says there's regulations on conibears, traps on land, and how big they can be. So 330s have to be underwater here. We're not allowed to use conibears as a regular trapper on land. Nuisance guys, nucos like me, can use conibears in other situations. So I buy a lot of 280s for trapping beaver because the way our language is written, only a 330 has to be fully submerged, but you can use conibears now as a regular trapper. And as a nuisance guy, you can use conibears. So when I was doing nuisance jobs 3, 4, 5 years ago, I would buy 280s and use them on crossovers and use them in places where they weren't fully submerged, because I can get away with it. And because the law only specifically stated a 330 had to be fully submerged. And here now, just last season, they opened up conibears for everybody, and I did a little water trapping episode in my show, and in it you see me catch the last one of the last traps I checked. That was a conibear had a mink in it, and I was stoked about it because that's why I set those conibears, the 110s, the 110 magnums up in a bottom edge set. And I was trying to get mink, and I found a place that had a bunch of good mink sign. And I've only caught two mink in my life. The first one I caught was a blast. Second one was just as good. So I used to think when you're drinking, you should never have milk, any kind of milk product, any kind of dairy, because it might make you sick. But I put a little bit of creamer in my coffee, and if you mix a little bit of alcohol with coffee, that's like a 4 hour ordeal that'll keep you in the fur shed all night long. I'm drinking coffee tonight. I don't know of any refusals with beaver. Some of the biggest beaver I've ever caught, Kyle, were in 280s because I use them so much. I've got what I've got. What, I got a dozen 280s and a dozen 330s. I used to operate with just a half dozen of both, and then 18. Well, I had 2 dozen drowning sets, and I like snares for beaver too. I really like snaring down beavers. I've got some creeks around here, and I worked this ranch last summer. I say last summer, summer 2022. I worked this ranch for about 2 months. We killed 53 beaver on it. And it slowed down on me. I only had so many places I had a lot of beaver concentrated on, but they have creeks that run through here. And we've got a big creek, and then we got the creeks that run into it. And I've got some of the creeks, are 6, 7, 8 feet wide. And I've seen guys where they'll take like cattle panel and they'll put it in there and they'll cut it out and they'll put conibears in 2 of the holes in the cattle panel. So when the beaver come through doing nuisance work and they can only get through in those 2 holes and they both get caught and you get doubles right there. I thought about doing that, and I haven't done that yet. But what I started doing is I'll just take dead branches and sticks and everything, and I would create a gate inside the 4 to 8 foot creek or crick. And the big creek is real shallow, and it's dammed up in a couple spots, and you can get some good catches. But the creeks is really where it gets deep. It's just really narrow, and it runs off into the creeks. And I'll narrow it down, and I'll neck it down. I'll hang a snare or two, in a spot that's only open, and I'll put sticks down in the ground in the mud and the clay around it, so they have to go through the holes that I made. And I really like snaring beaver on the water. That's one of my favorite things. Yeah, it's a good time. The cattle panel works good. I think that might be the trick you're talking about. I've uh I've seen guys do it effectively. I got a buddy who used to be a captain of the detectives in El Reno, and he does nuisance work now. And he's been doing nuisance work for a while, but he retired about 4 years ago. Has been doing nuisance work ever since, and he's blowing up where he's at. He makes good money, and he uses Comstock cages, and I think it's a single door Comstocks he uses, and then he has like a little, oh, I don't know if you guys know, but you probably would if I explain it properly. It's like the feeder cup that goes on the bottom of a plant. You see like roses that are individual, and they have a little feeder cup on the bottom of them that's got plant food inside of it that feeds the plant, so you can keep it alive for a while and sell it out in public. He takes those little cups like that, and he wires them to the top of the Comstock cages, and he puts castor inside the cup, and it has holes in it so you can smell it real good. And he sets his cages up so the water level's here. He sets his cages up where they're just about an inch and a half over the water level, and he'll catch multiple adolescent beavers in the same trap. Whenever he does that, he'll set it in the water. He'll go and he'll just cage trap them, and then he'll take them out and remove them. And I've seen him let go beavers in places. And a lot of people don't like that, but if you've got the land and you own the place yourself, or you know somebody who wants to have the beaver around, they might be willing to take them. But in Oklahoma, for the most part, when you catch beaver, you put her down because you don't want to make someone's problem someone else's problem. Kyle, if you have the capability to snare bud, you should. I talk about my next episode that comes out Monday. This is Thursday, right? So, in Monday, my next episode that comes out is going to be about, it's kind of a snaring episode because I snare 3 or 4 dogs in it. Coyotes, I just call them dogs. Um, and snaring is really, really easy to do. There's a book I got. Hal Sullivan wrote it, and it's called Snaring 2000. And Hal, I think, writes for the Trapper Mag, or writes for one of these magazines. And I read his book, Kyle, and it was great. Hal Sullivan's book was, he's got really good images in it. He kind of shows you how to snare. I've also got Dobbin's book on snaring. Um, and maybe I got that mixed up. Maybe the Dobbins book's called Snaring 2000. Hell, I don't remember. But I've got 2 or 3 different books on snaring that I read, and because I didn't really see, because snaring is one of those things kind of taboo whenever it comes to the antis and the internet. So people try not to show much about it, and they don't talk about it much. I didn't really see videos of people snaring unless it was like Trapping Inc. And they would show you how they snare up there in the north. And you'll see Trapper Jay every time he's on Flair's ranch, he's snaring coyotes. And but most people don't show videos on snaring, and I didn't show how to set up snares in my video, and that might be a video that I make, in the future. But snaring is something that everyone should learn. It's really easy. Here, you can use snares as a nuisance guy, and you have to have a paid nuisance job to be using snares. And you got to be careful how you do it because you don't want to create an issue that's going to cause a problem for trappers in the future. I'd like us to all be able to use snares in Oklahoma, but we can't. But once you figure out snaring, it's a good time. Here, you can't use any entanglement. They have to be totally free of entanglement. So I don't know if it's like that where you're at. Um, but snares here, you can set them up. You can set stuff around it to kind of that breaks away, but you can't have anything that'll get the animal tangled up in it. And I like to use snares for beaver. Snares are great on beaver, and especially hard to catch beaver. When you're in a beaver hole, you got a pond that's been wrecked by beaver, and they've torn everything up, and the rancher or the farmer wants to get rid of them. You get in there and find out you can't catch them in conibears because they've been trapped before. Now you've got to use snares in order to catch them. You can catch some of them on drowning rigs, on blind sets, especially. I use blind sets more often than anything on beaver. If I go in and there's a bunch of heavy beaver damage, I'll set 8 blind sets the first night and not even put any lure out at all. And I'll wait to see what happens after a couple days before I start putting something in that's got lure in it. But snares are great. Snares, one of anybody who can use snares as a regular trapper should really learn it, get into it, learn into making your own snares, figure out the information. It's real cheap. Once you first get in, you might spend $200 over the course of a year or two getting the snare supplies. But once you've done that, you can recycle all of your parts that are on the snares, just about almost everything except your nuts and ferrules and stuff you break down. Everything else you can recycle and keep. So you can hang on to stuff for a long time. Then at that point, you're just buying cable. You said you stick with Duke traps. You only have two 330s and two 280s. Just ordered a dozen Duke number fours for beaver on drowning rods. Yep. Duke number four works good on beaver. It's a simple trap. It's got a dog on it, so the dogs get bit up from time to time. I've switched. I use Montana number fives. When I first started, all I had was a half dozen Montana number fives. And then in 2020, I moved up. I bought a half a dozen Beaver KO Extremes from Kindle at the Nationals in Missouri, and it was a real good time. And I like Kindle a lot. He's got some great traps. I haven't used any of his coyote traps yet, and I'm going to. But his beaver traps are tanks. And a lot of people say it's hard to set. It is hard to set when you're in the water. I always use my knee. It's not as easy to set as the TS85. Okay, and if you put two coil on it, it works fine. I mean, it's still pretty easy to set with your hand. But I like the 4 coil here because they don't really have uh, a law on it here anymore. They had it in the language at one point that land traps had to have 2 coil, but with the water traps, they don't necessarily specify. And a lot of the wardens didn't really care, so I just went ahead for 4 coil traps whenever it came to beaver. And I love those traps. I've never lost anything out of a KO Beaver Extreme, not one thing. But my Montana number fives, the beaver, because the way it's set up, if your trap chain is attached to the middle by a D loop, then you're probably going to hold beaver in about any set. But if your trap chain's on the end of the trap, one side or the other, the beaver are going to pull their foot all the way. If they're toe caught or if they're foul caught at all, they're going to pull it all the way to the far end of the other trap and they're going to ring off. And I caught in the Montana number fives, they're set up like that. And I actually put base plates on them, and it still didn't matter if they got over into the corner of the trap and they were foul caught, they would ring out. But I've never lost a single thing out of those KO Beaver Extremes. Says you love Duke number twos for dogless for coyotes. Yeah, dogless traps are awesome. I've never used the Duke number two dogless. I've got some Duke 1.5s I use on coons, and I got some Duke dog proofs. I got a Duke dog proof, and it's caught more coons than any of my other coon traps. Fur damage. I process. Well, I don't. I don't. I put up my fur if it's cats and coyotes. The last 2 seasons, I've just sold my beaver after skinning it. I just skin it and roll up the skin and freeze it, and then sell it as is once I get there. You don't have to put a whole lot of work into it because beaver bring you pretty decent money if you don't. Um, I the fur damage though on what you said. How bad is your fur? I guess you're talking about snares, maybe. I don't normally whenever I'm snaring coyotes, it's outside of the perfect prime time for their fur, so I don't really do any good. When it comes to beaver, I've never seen a damage that mattered. The beaver never had a problem. Not aware of any entanglement laws here. That's cool. Maybe you don't have any. If you don't have entanglement laws, then you can use things like kill poles. And I made a bunch of kill poles up the first time I thought about snaring before I understood the laws when it came to entanglement. So kill poles are 5, 6 foot rebar rods that you weld a piece of number 9 wire to or number 11 wire to, whatever you use. And I use them now just to put beaver traps in deep runs. But when I'd made them originally, I was going to use them for snaring dogs, and you use that as your stake. So you bang that kill pole down in the ground, a foot and a half, 2 foot, and then you have your snare staked off on it, and you have your wire that's coming off of it holding your snare in place. And whenever the coyote hits it in a dead run, he gets the end of it and stretches out that extension. Well, then he gets wrapped around that kill pole, and then when you get there, the coyote's DOA. And the same thing works for beaver and water or something like that, but we're not able to use them here because of our entanglement laws. Yeah, the price tag on the TS-85s is too much. I bought the last dozen in 2022. I think it was June 2022. I bought a dozen KO Beaver Extremes from Kindle, and I paid 278, and that was with shipping. Now I think they're a little more expensive now. I think they're somewhere around 320. But I paid 278 for the best damn beaver traps in the world. I mean, they are the best beaver trap. I've set every trap I've seen at the conventions just to kind of get a feel for it and touch it. And I don't think I'll ever buy another drowning trap other than Kindle's traps unless something better comes out in the future. Yeah, with the fur damage related to snaring, that's what I figured you're talking about. I on coyotes, I'm like I said, they're usually outside of their fur primeness whenever I'm snaring them. I try not to snare the dogs until the later in the season when I want to try and catch my numbers. And that's only on places that I do nuisance work on. This year I'll be working a lot of places that are not nuisance work. So I'll probably have very few snares out this season. Only here on the ranch that's close by that I still do nuisance work on. That's a place I'll snare at. We still got 6 people in here, but Kyle's the only one talking. If you folks got any questions, or you just want to talk shit, just holler at me. I'm not bashful. Not bashful at all. I guess we're pushing an hour and a half here, so if we keep chatting and we still got stuff to say, we'll go on to about 2, maybe a little longer, but I don't want to keep y'all up all night. And I don't know, hell, where I'm at, it's 11:30, so 11:35. Here's some of those Duke traps. Let me see if I can show this. So here's the Duke traps, the standard Duke traps full page ad that he has in a lot of the trapping magazines. And you were talking about having that number 4, and I guess what they say it's 6.5 jaw spread. So number 4s, those are pretty good for beaver. And you know, another thing that's interesting on beaver that I'll say is I've been following Jason Vance since last fall. Jason Vance is a slayer. That dude was just destroying the coyotes in Kansas up near those feedlots. He was catching, I saw some of the images he had. He had 6 or 7 coyotes on the same fence line, that day. He was easily catching triples and quads all the time. And Vance uses the Duke 650. I don't know if he's sponsored by Duke. I haven't met, I think I've seen Bill Duke twice, but I never actually shook the man's hand. I don't know the guy. His traps are, his 550 Pro, his 650 Pro. I own the 650 Pro. I don't have the 550, but I've held it, and I mean it's pretty damn good, man. It's not, it ain't the MB 550. There are a couple subtle differences, like when it comes to the swivels and the chain, and when it comes to looking at the frame where the cross frame is. There's a couple differences that are a little bit different, but they're still bolted in really solid. They have really good cast jaws. I've heard some of the great trappers say both of them work great, and I would use the 550. And in fact, if I ever buy in the future, I'll buy more traps. But when I can afford more traps, I'll probably get into a mess of 550s. But I really want to try Kindle's coyote traps. But what started all this conversation was the fact that Jason Vance uses the 650 on coyotes, and the reason why he uses 650 is because he uses it on both beaver and coyotes. And traditionally, based on what I'd learned when I first got started in trapping, is that most folks don't use um, they don't use anything smaller than 7.5 or 8 inches on beaver back foot. They say it's not big enough, and that's why the TS-85 is what 8.5 inches. And I think the don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that the Beaver KO Extremes is like 8.25 inches or something, and that's inside jaw. In some of the laws in different states, it's inside or outside jaw, depending on where they measure from. But but I think this the based off of Jason Vance's videos, and if you guys don't watch Jason Vance, look up advanced predator management, and look up his stuff, his videos on YouTube and his videos on Instagram. He shows how he murders the beaver with the Duke 650. So he uses Duke 650 for coyotes, and he transfers that over to beaver when he goes back to Maine. So he's supposed to be trapping in 4 states this year, going for coyotes, and I forget how many he's going for, but he's going for a lot. And then he's going to turn around and he's going to do spring beaver all through the spring in Maine, and he slays the beaver, catching 10, 15, 18 a day, and most of them are in 650s. Nomadic says, "Have you been to Oregon trapping? That's where I got interested in trapping." No, I have. I've never been to Oregon at all. That's one of the 6 or 7 states in this country I've never been to. But Oregon's beautiful. But they got, they got Portland. They got all that weird, modern Marxist crazy shit going on. So a lot of people that are running that state are doing it from a far leftist point of view. Johnny Boy says, "I've been listening, cleaning out in the garage." He says, "I run Bridger number 3 with dog and no BS Canine Extreme." So I started with the Bridger number 3. That was the cheap enough trap I could get into, where it was quality and it had good results, and it came with the cross frame in it. So you had the base plate and the D ring, and had 2 swivels on it. So I started with the Bridger number 3, and my first season, that's all I used was Bridger number 3. And I caught, I think I caught 30 dogs that year, 32 dogs that year, 8 cats, 1 cat I had to release, so 9 cats. And I did good. I enjoyed that year. That was a great year. Learning how to trap. First animal I caught, first time I set a trap. November 26th, I set traps. November 27th, I showed up. There was a bobcat, big Tom bobcat in there. I had to let it go because it was 3 days before taking them. And now that I've grown a little bit and learned more, I know that you don't take cats that early because you don't want to mess up you don't want to use them without their fur being worth it. But Bridger number 3 is great, and the No BS Canine Extreme and the Canine Juniors, I haven't used them. I've held them. I'm excited. I'm excited to get a couple dozen of Kindle's canine traps because I'd really love to use them. And I have a dozen Bridger number 3 dogless, and that's very similar to the makeup of the pan system and everything that Kindle uses. I noticed that from some of Dale Billingsley's videos that there's an adjustment now that's on the extremes that wasn't there whenever I first bought my beaver traps. So you can adjust the pan tension by just loosening up a bolt and adjusting the area where it's at and then tightening it down. And that's pretty cool. That's definitely a new thing that I didn't even know existed. Kyle says my buyer wants to feed on his coyotes and bobcats. Yeah, that's because he's selling for taxi. Typically on bobcats, you skin all the way to the paw and stretch the legs with coat hangers. Right. Which side of the leg would you split the leg for drying? Which side of the leg would you split the leg for drying? I guess you'd be right on the fur line where the color change. If you were splitting, like when you're doing the back leg and you're going down it. If you're doing it for taxi, I start at the pad, and instead of I don't cut up into the foot, but I start at the pad and I work my way down in the place where the hairline is. Say using my hair on my arm right there as a guide. I work into that, and then I work right into the crotch. And then I usually cut straight across, kind of like you do on a coon. Whenever I'm doing cats or if I'm doing something for taxi for that purpose, I cut straight across. And if it's a cats, I cut just south of the testes and the vent. And if it's coyotes, I'd probably cut just. Mm, I've never sold a coyote for taxi, but if I did, I'd probably cut right across the asshole. Usually the assholes are not. Well, from what I heard from taxi guys, the assholes are not. They don't even care if they're on there because they're going to cover it up with the tail or hair or whatever. They're not. It doesn't matter. But with the cats, whenever I skin them for taxi, I always skin it with the asshole skin on. I skin that whole part out, leave the balls intact, leave everything intact, so they can do what they want with it. Johnny says he has 2 dozen OBS Extremes and they are badass. Damn right. I'll bet they are. I've seen them. I've set them at conventions, but I've never bought one. Yep, I can imagine. And Kendall's such a good dude. and he's got a good circle around him. And he's a good enough guy where Lee Steinmeier sold his death ray business to Kendall, and I don't think he could have sold it to a better dude. Kendall is a good dude, and he makes such good quality equipment that I don't. There's probably nobody better that could have made that new death ray. And the death ray is a little bit more expensive than it was when you were buying them from Lee, but it looks like a tank. I mean, Kendall's done great. Kyle says, would you split the front legs on the top brown side or bottom white side? I always do it on the hairline on the bottom. But the taxidermist that I sold my cats to wanted me to do what was called a dorsal cut. And a dorsal cut was it's a cut from the back of the neck, right here at the back of the head, all the way down to the tail, to the base of the tail. And then you peel the coyote or animal from the back down out. So then they can just wrap their form up, and then their only line is at the top. So they don't even really skin down the legs whenever they do taxidermy. They prefer not to, because they skin the leg off down towards the last joint, and then they cut it off right there. But I just did case skins for mine, and he accepted it and liked it, and he said it worked out really good as long as it's pretty clean cut and you don't have a bunch of holes in it and mistakes. I mean, like I said, they don't even care. They're artists. They'll fix those mistakes. Yeah, Portland and Salem and Eugene. Everywhere else is normal. That's good. You know, Air Gunner. That's how it is everywhere. Oklahoma is the only state in the country that voted red 2 presidential elections in a row. Every county went red, but in every other state, in what 85% of the other states, every county in those states were red except for the major cities, the major populated areas. Those went blue. And I'm not necessarily a Republican. I'm a Christian, and I'm not a very good one, as you can see. I'm sitting here drinking, smoking, but I uh I like uh I like truth, not lies. And many Republicans lie just as much as the Democrats have in the past, and now it's just the Democrats' time to shine. But during the Bush years, Republicans were doing some really bad stuff too, and they're all trying to get your guns. They don't, there might be some good Republicans, and there's still some good Democrats, I'm sure too. I mean, take RFK for example, or some of those other guys that have speak common sense and care about the common man and actually in tune with people. There are people out like that on both sides, but I mean, for the most part, I don't pick a side. I'm not team red, team blue. I'm team red, white, and blue. I care about what's good for everybody, not what's good for some of us. But yeah, I mean, Oregon is a beautiful place, and I know that the antis and the PETA folks and the people that are kind of on the left side of things have really kind of messed up some of these great, great states. Colorado, for example, anybody in here from Colorado, you'll know. Colorado used to have trapping that was, not just cages, and they used to have a lot less restrictions when it came to stuff, and they really locked down on it. Yep, exactly. Sign of freedom. That's right. 1776 worldwide, my friend. That's where I'm at. All right, guys, it's kind of winding down. We're at 130 or an hour and 38 minutes. So I'll probably go ahead and shut this stream down. You guys got any last questions? I'll keep it up for a minute and answer them if you got them. But I appreciate y'all coming in. I appreciate y'all sticking around and putting up with my shit. And most of my live streams, whenever it comes to putting out information, I probably won't sit here and drink and smoke and do a whole lot of chatting. It'll be more just kind of information based and kind of put it out there and answer a few questions as I go. But I'll still do other live streams regularly where I'm just having a good time and chatting with everybody and getting to know folks. Those Duke DP coon traps. I don't know if you guys use DPs anywhere where you're at, but I've got some Z traps, and a lot of people love the Z traps, and I'm sure they're great. But I've got a dozen Z traps and one Duke DP, and if I set 5 of my Z traps next to my one Duke DP, that Duke DP is going to have a coon in it the next day, and everything else probably won't. And I'm sitting here looking at this. I had this pulled up a second ago when we were talking. We were just talking about some of those Duke traps because Kyle's talking about having those number fours. And right here you see the DP coon trap in here, and it's pretty cheap. You know, if they're $15 a piece, but it's 150 a dozen. So you get 30 bucks off per dozen. And you put a dozen Duke DPs out, and you're gonna clean up some coons and possums. They work. I bought a handful of these Duke wire stretchers my first year for coons and for coyotes, and I never really used them at all. I immediately switched to top lot, and I like top lot, but when it comes to cats, they don't have the right shape apparently, and I just started figuring that out the last 2 years that I'm losing money on my cats. Air Gunner, man, thanks for coming in, chatting. I appreciate it. Any of you guys that come in and start chatting up, that's good. I'm going to keep doing some of these lives throughout the next month, especially before trap season starts. And I'll be watching to see who's actually engaging and who's not. And whenever we do, whenever I start doing live streams that I want moderated, I'll pick people that are actually involved to do moderation. And, there's other guys I know on here that don't really get a chance to watch or haven't had a chance to comment. That I think will be real good at moderation too. I haven't really figured out the whole moderation thing, but apparently I can just click on a person's name and make them a moderator. Yeah, I can just sit here and add them as a moderator, and I can even hide them from the channel. I can put them in timeout. They better be good. Don't say anything anti-trapping or you get timed out. But no, I know you guys are good. There's only 5 of us in here, so. But anyway, I appreciate you guys chiming in, saying something. I do. I'm just now starting to grow the YouTube. I didn't really realize there was a way to grow it. And once I figured YouTube was just one of those things where you just got on there, put videos on it. If it did something, it did. If it didn't, it didn't. And I figured out now that the way to grow your YouTube is to communicate in the community and interface between YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and kind of communicate across the social platforms to kind of get information out there. And that once you start communicating with people that already have better channels, it kind of passes off where your channel starts to grow because you get to meet other people. All of you guys that are in here, I've seen you in these other live chats, and you might have not known who I was at all till I got into those live chats. So, oh yeah, Kyle, you just bought the dozen top lots. They're perfect for coyotes, man. They work great. And those top lots, the adjustable ones. Did you get adjustable ones or did you get the non-adjustable, full size coyote ones? Johnny, thanks for coming in, bud. I'm glad you enjoyed the live. Thank you so much. Kyle says he used wire last year to the to wood this year. Yep. Yeah, the adjustable ones. That's what I use on coyotes and cats. And I some of the guys. There's a guy named Tracy Truman. He goes by the name Lazarus on Trapper Man, and Trapper Man's where I learned to trap. I met guys on there, and I read all the stuff they put out, and I listened to their recommendations. I went and learned the stuff that they said to learn. Um, his name's Tracy Truman, and he's one of the baddest cat trappers in the land. And he writes articles for Trappers Post, and it's usually cat-centered articles. He's a real smart guy, scientific type guy even, and he catches cats. And I remember hearing about him doing 100 and something cats, 100 plus cats, averaging $1,000. And that was like his 2018 season or something. So he put up cats. He's averaging $1,000 on his Nevada cats. That's basically what he does. And he sells these things called wild wings, where it's like a synthetic turkey feather or a synthetic guinea feather that you can use as an attractor for cats. And he sells silver vine. That's where I got my silver vine. And he told me he chimed in on a couple posts that I'd made about cats and about hearing about stretching out because that you get a lot of extra meat or extra fur in the head on the cat whenever you put it on the board, the top lot stretchers. And there's a way you could apparently cut the you can what's the word? I don't know, I'm not a woodworker. route the sides of the top lot stretchers to give it a little bit different shape. That works really well on cats and doesn't make your cows look bad. And it stretches that fur out that's on the head, and you gain extra length in the whole cat. And when you gain, he said a cat that's might be worth $300 at 30, 3 inches, 35 inches, and jumps up $100 if you gain that extra inch. A lot of that fur's in the head. So the top lot stretcher doesn't let you pull it down any further because of how wide it is and the way that the head's shaped. But there are other stretchers out there that are more narrow on the head that allow for you to be able to get all of that extra length out of that part of the head and the neck that causes you to gain that inch or inch and a half down on the bottom, which is what, whenever you're putting up fur for money, and $100 over an inch and a half is a big deal. So you might look into that. I really like the top lot stretchers, and I've never bought one of the really good coyote stretchers. I have one of the stretchers that Cletus Richards makes from Apple Road Predator Bait, and that's supposed to be really good for cats. And I've only used it on coyotes at this point. So anyway, everybody, Johnny, Air Gunner, Kyle, who else was in here commenting? PA, he left earlier. Jeff, I don't know if Jeff's still here, but Jeff's probably gone to bed by now. He's in Pennsylvania too, I think, or no, he's in Missouri. But I appreciate you guys chiming in, watching the show. We're going to do this more often. Leave me messages in the comments below the show if you've got any other questions, or you got anything else to say about this episode. And we'll see you next time. Until then, Dominion out.